Hello, students. You are welcome to the final session of Unit 3, and that is Session 6. And in this session, we will be looking at the objectives model of curriculum planning. My name is Patrick Ejay. Now, by the end of this session, you should be able to state the 4 steps of the objectives model. Then explain the schematic diagram of this model. And finally, state the stage at which evaluation should be done in the objectives model. Now, the objective model. Now, this model of curriculum design contains content that is based on specific objectives. So, specific objectives, we know that this is what will help us to achieve the general aims of the curriculum. And so the model is based on content, and these content that are being selected are also based on the specific objectives. And the objectives should specify expected learning outcomes in terms of specific measurable behavior. So the behavioral changes that will be seen in students will determine whether the objectives that have been specified have been achieved or not. Now, according to the objectives model, the model comprises 4 main steps, and these are the steps that one must consider anytime one is planning or designing a curriculum. And the first step is agreeing on broad aims which are analyzed into objectives. Then constructing a curriculum to achieve these objectives. Then you refine the curriculum in practice by testing its capacity to help achieve its objectives. And the final step is communicating the curriculum to the teachers through the conceptual framework of the objectives. So we have the general aims, and the general aims are translated into objectives. And how do we achieve these objectives? We plan the content that can help us achieve the objectives. We find out whether these contents can really help us achieve the objectives. And once these contents are able to help us achieve the objectives, we now communicate to the teachers, who are the implementers of the curriculum, to ensure that the expected behavioral change that must be seen in the students are being observed, in order to say that the general aims of the curriculum has been achieved. Now, with the schematic diagram of the model, we have curricular ideas, the objectives, the content, material, methodology, and evaluation. So we have 4 main steps here, and you will see that at every point in this stage we can do evaluation. So from curricular ideas, we can evaluate to find out whether those ideas that are presented really represent the general aims of education. We have the objectives. We can evaluate the objectives to find out whether they can help us to achieve the curricular ideas or the general aims of education. And we can also evaluate the content, material, as well as the methodology to ascertain whether the selected content can also help us achieve the stated objectives. So looking at the objectives model, one could observe that evaluation can be done at any point in this phase. Evaluation can occur at any point in the phase of the curriculum designing or development process. Now, what we must take note that when it comes to evaluation is done at each stage of the curriculum design process. So as we saw in the schematic diagram, we saw that we can do evaluation of the objectives. We can evaluate the content. We can evaluate the methodology or the pedagogical approaches that are being used by the teacher to help achieve the general aims of education. And so we must take note that the evaluation is not left to be done at the end of the entire process, but at every point in the curriculum design process, evaluation can be done. Then secondly, content, materials, and methodology are also derived from the objectives. So the content that will be selected, the kind of materials, the methodology that will be employed by the teacher, all these are based on the objectives. The contents are selected in such a way that they can help us to achieve the specific objectives of the curriculum, because we know that these specific objectives is what will help us achieve the general aims and goals of education. Now, students, today we look at the objectives model of curriculum development. And we saw that this model is also made up of 4 steps. And we saw that the models are in such a way that evaluation can be done at each stage of the curriculum design process. Evaluation is not a terminal process. It can be done at every point in time to ascertain whether we are indeed working towards achieving the general aims of education. Students, I hope we enjoyed this session, which is the final session of Unit 3 on curriculum development and designing. I hope to see you in subsequent sessions, and thank you for joining today's session. Bye.